Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Critique Revolve. I am your host, No One.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Can you bounce over to my left a little bit? Camera left.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
This way?
Yep. Okay. Now start. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. Still good?
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Critique Revolve. I am your host, Thomas Cowley, and joined with me, as usual these days, is Michael Flores.
Hello.
And we are talking about the latest, maybe greatest, who knows, Marvel superhero movie, the last for the year, the last before Doomsday, and the last hope Marvel has of getting this right. The Fantastic Four First Steps. Now, it is no surprise to anyone with a sense of taste or a pulse that Marvel has been struggling for some time. Since Endgame, it has been a series of, at best, lukewarm receptions and at worst, flat-out disasters amongst their movies and TV shows. This year has been started off real rough with Captain America, another one, A Brave New World, the reshoot, the re-reckoning. I don't even know. It's had so many problems. It got better with Thunderbolts, but that one didn't perform at all like they wanted it to. And it looked like it was all hinging on Marvel's first family, the iconic Fantastic Four, who has had 3 released movies prior to this and 4 movies total prior to this, none of which hit the mark or resonated well with audiences, or there was always something about them that didn't work, from the camp a little bit ahead of its time, that era of early and mid 2000s superheroes before they really figured it out with Iron Man, and the downright disaster that was Fantastic Four 2015. One of the most bleak fucking movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, now I can appreciate that they were attempting to do something different, trying to.
It's such a dark turn, though.
Yes.
For what is so iconic, of what made Fantastic Four the property it was. And there's a lot of people who, I think it's pretty widely accepted that the best Fantastic Four movie has been the first Incredibles, because it's the same core power set and concept, and it hinges on family. So there's a lot going into this movie. It had to somewhat revitalize people's interest, or at least faith in Marvel's abilities, besides a lot of shill people who would sing its praise. It was the best thing ever since sliced bread, and every time then they'd fall off as soon as people started to think about it more. It had to set up Doomsday, allegedly, we're led to believe. It had to, in a way, keep superhero movies going, or at least prove their financial viability, and still go up against, within 2 weeks, James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn, the James Gunn film, then the launch of the new DC universe. So there's a lot riding on this one.
Yeah. Literally,
the whole thing.
The future of Marvel in a lot of ways.
Yes. Because if this is a box office fail, oh, daddy.
Yeah, it would mean a return to the drawing board again, because if this didn't work, which it looks like it is working for them.
I think they would have pushed through for Doomsday. That would have been the real question mark, because an Avengers film has a different draw and appeal, and obviously they cracked the, in case of emergency, break glass that is Robert Downey Jr., but this still has to do well for them for the foreseeable future of phases, like, what is it, 6 now? Or something like that. So there's a lot riding on this one. And to herald this movie, get that, Herald of Galactus, we have Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby, Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. Is it Eben Moss Bachrach?
Yep.
The Bear plays the Thing. And Joseph Quinn plays Johnny Storm. We also have Julia Gardner as Silver Surfer, and Ralph Ineson as Galactus. Spoiler. There was a lot going into this. And this movie has the issue of not only doing all of the stuff we recently said, but it is well known that this is set in an alternate universe, one of the multiverses that has been established since the Doctor Strange sequel, maybe a little bit before that. And that has helped it, I truly think, in a lot of ways. And of the big summer movies, July was the Thunderdome. You had Jurassic World Rebirth, you had Superman, and you had Fantastic Four First Steps. And we'll get into it, but I think I'm surprised, that's the word. I'm surprised to say I think this was the best one of the three. And it came at the last. It got better each time because Jurassic World was an abomination in many ways. Superman was a misfire but fun and hit certain things but dropped the ball on others. And I think Fantastic Four actually, it's not perfect, but for the most part, it really pulled off a fun superhero summer movie that delivered on all the parts that it really needed to, even if there's some things that don't quite work, where you can tell it had some editing later down the line, or was trying to bite off maybe too much, but it didn't choke on it. So that's an impressive improvement from where we've been.
I agree with you. I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I feel like this is an example of what they should have been doing since the end of the original 10-year plan.
Yeah,
at the
since
end
Endgame.
Since Endgame. This is what they should have done.
Do you remember what I said to you shortly after that?
No.
When they were talking about buying Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I had said they should focus on Fantastic Four for the family traditional values side of things, and X-Men for the found family, more liberal interpretation and all the things that X-Men has always represented.
Mm-hmm.
And that should have been the two prongs to their, it's not a trident, it's just a fork, I guess, or something like that. Bident.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but, at least we got kind of one of those.
Well, yeah, they seem to have forgotten, or perhaps they were just hoping people would keep watching these movies.
They were
even
too cocky.
After the reset that was Infinity War and Endgame. They should have went back to the drawing board, literally, and started over with a Phase 1 film, not a Phase 25,000 film.
Yes.
They should have started back at the roots. And this ultimately is why this movie, Fantastic Four, is a success and is a fun, enjoyable, high-quality film, is because they didn't worry about all of the excess, all of the noise. They focused on just what's important, the immediate plot. And this movie is an example that simplicity doesn't mean poor craftsmanship, as long as there's a solid structure and a theme that will resonate. And that's exactly what this movie does. This movie isn't overly complicated. It's actually one of the more simple Marvel films. And that is what works in its favor. Because it's asking us to sit down and escape for 2 hours.
Well, yeah, it's free of all the baggage
There you go.
Phase 4 and Phase 5 of Marvel
and also
has been.
cultural baggage.
Cultural
that
baggage.
has been weighing down every TV show, every
Holy
movie
fuck.
for the last 6 years.
Yeah. Except maybe Deadpool and Wolverine, which is a fun disaster of a movie.
Yeah.
But this one separates itself with the multiverse factor, not being tied to all the other movies and TV shows. There's no homework going into this one. You didn't have to see the 2008 Hulk and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the Captain America films and fucking Ant-Man and Wakanda, Jesus, to make sure you knew what was happening for Captain America Brave New World. This is its own separate thing. It doesn't ask anything other than show up and have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's something that has been missing for quite a while. And I think you're 100% right. The instead of looking at it as a clean break and then let's build up again, they just tried to build on top of the antenna on the building that was Endgame.
Yeah.
And it's just collapsed into the street for the most part.
Well, the way you started the discussion, I agree with you that this is the one film that I don't think any of us expected to be the winner of the summer.
No.
And it seems like this is the number one winner of the summer in terms of quality and overall filmmaking and just it being a fun, great film. And, you know, I'm glad I like this for a lot of reasons. Number one, I don't want to be angry, but also I want to share with our listeners and prove to them that I'm not a pretentious D-bag that wants everything to be super smart and overly intelligent. That's not the case. I love simplistic films. I hope that comes through when we do all of our discussions on film and TV. All I want is my intelligence not to be insulted. And when you compare a movie like this side by side with Superman, the reason why a movie like this works and Superman does not for me is because the movie is clear. It's coherent. It's simple in its message. It's simple in its theme. It's simple in its character motivation. And with Superman, the simplicity of it all gets lost in fuckery and motivation that I don't quite understand. Who is doing what and what? Why do you want to do this? I mean, if I didn't know anything about Superman, would I understand what you're doing right now? Would I understand what you're about? Or am I relying on all of the past information to make sense of some of these characters?
Yeah.
With Fantastic Four, it doesn't
make that mistake.
It doesn't rest on its laurels of Marvel and past iterations of superhero films. It's like, this is something new and fresh, and I'm going to take my time and explain who these people are. And when I say time, it's not an allotment of time. It's the right amount of time to understand who these people are about. And not only that, Thomas, I hope I'm not taking over. I apologize.
No, you're good.
You can make a movie smart, air quotes, and explain certain concepts without getting too deep. This movie, if you pay attention to what Pedro Pascal, Reed Richard, is doing on the whiteboard at the beginning of the movie, he's explaining how alternate realities exist. You're telling me we needed 6 years of alternate reality stories for someone to finally decide we should explain the science loosely, at least like vaguely. We don't need to draw attention to it, but what if we did it though? Like in passing, during a scene when Reed Richards is just teaching students. That's how you get away with explaining things in a way that doesn't feel like it's in your face. Hey guys, pay attention to this. Pay attention. It's subtle filmmaking. And the same thing with numerous science fiction elements during space travel scenes. They actually use real science to explain some of the things they do. It's a simple but smart movie.
Well, that's the thing is that
I'm sorry if I jumped way ahead.
No, you're good. Superman is kind of a mess. And again, while I think they got the characterization of him right and the moral message of him right, the script introduces so many batshit bonkers things as well as characters and unnecessarily complex or just dumb elements that are never answered and just says, fuck it, go with it.
Yeah.
And Fantastic Four, while not to take away too much of what you're saying, it has a lot of fuckery going on.
Absolutely.
It has a shitload that it's expecting us to pay attention to absorb.
It knows what it wants to be.
But I was going to say, it has a clear idea of what its intentions are. It has a clear setting of what its characters and themes are.
It's not suffering from an identity crisis.
It doesn't have this implosion of bad ideas weighing it down that a lot of Marvel's TV shows in particular, but their movies and shows have had as of late, which is we don't have a better good idea, so we pulled out a bad idea out of our ass. Like, we've never talked about it on any of our shows, but like Echo is a great example of, wait, what the fuck is the end? Like,
yeah.
Mysticism comes out of fucking nowhere, like people getting shot in the head and being just fine. Like, there's just insanity that has plagued Marvel for some time, and Fantastic Four First Steps is a nice clean break from so much of that, to the point that honestly I would tell people watch through Endgame and then just jump to this and you miss nothing. You really fucking miss nothing.
You're kind of right.
Which is sad, but also I guess a testament to this one's ability to stay, if a little messy, it stays focused. And there's, like you said, there's not as many of the identity politics. The characters feel true to their comic book forms. Nobody is downplayed or belittled for the aggrandization of another. Everybody is a team, ironically, you know, in a Fantastic Four team-up movie. Sue gets her time. Reed gets his time. Johnny gets his time. I think the only one who maybe gets a little bit of a short end of the stick is the Thing, Ben Grimm. But even then they have some of it there. And I think that's where, like, there's some of the editing that lost maybe a couple of sidetrack stories or side plots. But overall, it does a nice job. And it has an interesting villain. It has great visuals, which I was really impressed by.
Some of the best visual effects and cinematography in a
long
Marvel
time.
superhero film in a long time. The visual effects
God.
are fucking damn near flawless.
There's one scene in particular, what's maybe the halfway point. I don't want to spoil. That is beautiful and really well done. And like you said, kind of smart with some of the logic solutions to it. And
also, like, using motherhood as an allegory. There is some smarts to this movie as well, even though it's in a simple form.
And everything about it, while, again, some parts maybe not exactly to your liking, it doesn't trip on itself. It doesn't fuck anything up to where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And the villain is interesting. And I've seen some people complain that they wanted to, like, the biggest complaint has been people wanting more that I've seen. More of the Silver Surfer or Galactus, or how does some of that stuff come into play? But for me, it worked on a cosmic horror, you don't understand everything in the universe, nor do you need to element. So that worked for me. I never had an issue with that.
It's the abyss, you know. It's the whole idea of the void.
Yeah, the fact, I mean, like, slight spoilers, the fact that they think they can go talk to Galactus and, like, have a chat with some entity that says it's going to eat their planet, that is insane.
Yeah.
Because, like, who thinks, like, I'm just going to go talk to Cthulhu, no big deal. No.
But that's also part of the that's kind of built into the movie, and that's something
built into the not aesthetic,
world,
but
the
like
world itself,
the world building of who they are.
The world is more naive.
Yes,
it's not cynical, and that actually works in the movie's favor.
It really does, and it was refreshing.
Yeah, well, you couldn't be. There's no way. Now it makes sense why they removed this from the standard
world setting,
MCU Earth that we are, that most of our movies take place in.
Oh, yeah.
They would not have been able to tell the same story. It would not have worked. The tone they were going for, the camaraderie, the support of the people of Earth, it would not work in the context of the reality that essentially we live in today is the MCU reality.
Right.
And we are cynical, we're pessimistic, we're untrusting, and none of those concepts even actually makes sense in the world of Fantastic Four and how they set it up.
And so it was nice. It really was.
It was. Now, I do have a question, and I hate to put you on the spot. Did you notice that the script is written very differently than most high-concept summer films? I don't know if he used a traditional act structure, because where you normally would have the climax, it's actually in the middle of the second act when they confront Galactus. And they have an entire epic showdown, a type of showdown that usually happens at the end of the movie.
See, I would disagree with you there.
Go ahead. That's why I'm asking you.
So, not to get into too much spoilers, but to me, that was more of not quite, I guess it was truly just like the midpoint in a lot of ways, but it's the second act. Like, okay, a good example maybe, it's not perfect, but bear with me. Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. It is the train fight with Doc Ock scene, where he's not at his lowest point that he will be later at the end of Act 2. But it is where things changed. They went into it with one idea and come out of it with another, and it has that first epic confrontation with the threat at that point.
Yeah.
But they come out of it dour, but they have a plan.
Which is typically how second acts end.
Yeah,
because
so it's
second acts end typically with for these types of movies. oh, everything's lost, we have failed, we have to come up with a new idea, we feel like we're going to lose, and then that kind of goes into third act. But I felt like that whole aspect came real early in the movie.
It's kind of weird because it somewhat does, but it also doesn't until the teleporter element
Yeah.
is taken off the playing field.
Yeah.
And
I really
that's
wanna
where
read
I
the
think some of
script.
the rewrites probably came into play.
Okay.
Because there is talks about rewrites and reshoots.
So you don't
on
think this is a writing structural thing? You think this was done in edit?
I think this was an editing element.
It worked. This isn't a negative. I was
Yeah.
actually intrigued because what worked for me when it comes to this movie is the script. It feels unique. It feels different. There are emphases on different portions of the act structure than what we are typically exposed to in these types of movies. So I don't know. Maybe because of fuckery in editing, they ended up giving it more than just the traditional 3 acts. I mean, that's just a general rule of thumb. You
It
can
feels
go more.
like a comic book series.
Okay.
When I was younger, I read all the Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men. That's far as my entry point.
It's serialized then. It's a
Kind of.
serialized narrative.
Yeah, because the halfway point in a 6-issue act structure of the comics would have had the middle point be like, a big element happened, but it's not quite the end of Act 2 depression. That's saved for end of issue 4, kind of beginning of 5.
No, I get what you're saying. now.
And it almost has like 2 of those elements between the events there, because it really is that midpoint that is just really climactic, I think.
Yeah, I knew we would be able
Because
to,
of the change of the narrative of what happens and what, with Sue, and obviously the element that occurs after that incident.
Yeah, I figured
without trying to
asking
spoil.
you for your thoughts, we would figure it out together.
Yeah.
It's basically you're explaining it as a comic, and now it makes sense. It's basically a serialized narrative, which is
Kinda.
not common with superhero films. The last serialized narrative I watched, meaning a feature film, that's a serialized narrative, which they can be done. Most people think serial is a series, like what we watch today on pretty much all streaming platforms are serials. But for example, the movie that Kevin Costner just did, that's an example of a serialized feature film narrative. So perhaps that's what it was.
It might be. I mean, and the other thing is, I do think this has been through the ringer, perhaps, compared to some of the other Marvel products. This could not fail. And if you look at this credits, there are 4 people credited for the story by,
Yeah.
and then 3 of those 4 and a different 4th person. So 5 people total involved between the story and the screenplay. And the other thing is, I think this one had more, they knew what they needed to do because they had so many failures. And it no longer had the goodwill that something like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness could burn through.
Yeah.
It sounds mean, but it's true. Michael Waldron, the writer of that, yes, he was given a bad hand because they were like 2 weeks into filming and they didn't have a finished script, but his ideas are also kind of a fucking mess in that movie. And Taika Waititi, who did Love and Thunder and probably shouldn't have been behind the pen on that one, and the rough TV shows of Ironheart and Echo and Ms. Marvel, and did anyone even give a fuck about Moon Knight anymore? Like there was so many trips and stumbles across the way, and they had that goodwill that they burned through.
Yeah.
That they needed more effort into this. So I think between the rewrites, a reshoot, and the editing room, it came together, but like barely.
Yeah, and also Shackman is a pretty determined director, and that's something we talk about a lot. He is not afraid to confront antagonistic forces. That's something we talk about a lot with directors. Like, you can only be a director if you have a bit of a, I don't want to say an aggressive spirit, but you have to be able, you can't just be able to be aggressive and stand up for your creative vision. And not all directors have that. But if you look at auteur directors who seemingly have a developed style or a developed themes that you see continually appearing in their films, these directors usually have something in common. They have very strong personalities. And I do feel like Shackman's style did make its way into the movie. Originally, I remember getting all excited because a couple years back he had mentioned that one of his inspirations was the Kubrick film 2001 Space Odyssey.
No, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
To hear him say that he is inspired by that, you can kind of gather that from some of the imagery, the fact that you're dealing with Galactus, that type of villain, and doom, destruction, the harbingers of death. I mean, these things are all existential accessories. So,
well, and his Matt Shankman's history is predominantly widely television, which would also lend its credibility to how this kind of has felt or came across.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And overall, like, while there are some editing elements that kind of, it's a lot in this movie. There's a lot from the nature of how it's set up, and it's under 2 hours, which I was surprised by for how much other movies in even the Marvel's setup lately has gone over that 2 hour, 2.5 hour mark.
Yeah.
And just wasted time. This had less than 2 hours and is jam fucking packed.
Yeah. So
there's multiple montage elements to this movie.
Yeah, I would, I want to add that, let me see how I can interject without throwing a wrench. So you had said that some of the complaints you heard was that there just wasn't enough.
They wanted more of the villains.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like in a lot of ways, whether people feel that or believe it, I think the fact that they pulled back a lot.
I think it was a good idea.
That was a good idea because it left us wanting. That's what you want. You want people to leave the theater thinking, "Oh, I want to see more." You don't want to give them too much, and you don't want to give them not enough. Well, and I think what this movie did is it delivered exactly what it needed to do, and also it set up a very interesting character thread. I don't know if you picked up on this, and you might call it a plot hole that wasn't resolved. I would call it setting something up. They drew a lot of attention to a dark side that Reed Richards apparently has.
Yeah, a little bit.
They didn't clarify, they didn't build on it, but numerous times they addressed something about him, that something's not right.
Well, I didn't so much feel as something's not right.
Not like he's evil.
Right. But it was more of that you can only be if you are truly the most brilliant man in the world, then you have to have considered a lot of things, and that includes some of the most terrible stuff.
It's Oppenheimer syndrome.
It's Oppenheimer, exactly, where it's like you have to think about the ramifications and what the options are, truly what the options are to save the world, and that requires a lot of dark places to go. And I think that they're going to lead into that because there's comic book storylines where Reed makes tough, arguably immoral decisions to save a larger amount of people.
Yeah.
And when you got Victor Von Doom coming, you kind of have to play into that area a little bit because of his intellect and his ruthlessness. And I think that worked. I think the cosmological element of the enemies required it to not be that well delved into. And,
you don't want to learn about too much.
It's pretty early, so it's not a spoiler. With their child and anyone who knows the comics, Franklin Richards, that is very deliberately kept ambiguous because of the nature of his powers and what he is.
Yeah.
Later in the comics. So I think the ambiguity was by design to try to give this idea of cosmic powers beyond our understanding. And I think that worked.
Absolutely.
Rather than constantly show us too much.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to shine the light in the abyss because it's no longer scary. And you have a character like Galactus.
Ralph Ineson, dude, sold that.
Man.
Great voice acting. Holy hell.
I think we got just enough. Did I want to learn more about him? Yeah, I did. That's a good thing. Because I don't think we're done with him completely. I really don't.
It'd be a shame if we were.
He's too major of a villain and too epic to just put him away forever.
Put him on ice.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I feel like they're saving him for the right moment.
Phase 7.
Yeah. And you know what? When they do it, it'll make people die. Like, people will fucking rip off their shirts, pound their chest because it's what they wanted. If Marvel is doing this correct, it would mean they're doing this like they did the first round.
Thanos, yeah.
They build things up. They give you just a little bit, so that it can pay off 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
That'd be good. That's what they should have been doing this whole time.
I know.
You know. Yeah, so this one, it was really kind of surprising to me that a lot of it's, I hate to say it, but it's like, wow, this is surprisingly competent for where Marvel's been lately. The acting is great. There was a lot of fear around Pedro Pascal and his casting as Reed Richards.
He was great.
We had, what's his name? John Krasinski from the Multiverse of Madness playing the character. And then now we have Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards. And he, again, has been overexposed in a lot of ways to some people's detriment, according to some algorithms. And then he's also the best thing ever, according to other algorithms. But he did a very good job, I think, as this reserved Reed Richards, who's not a pushover. He's not a dictator. He is very much the scientist, and it feels like he does make those tough decisions. While Sue is the emotional anchor. I liked the bickering between Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, which has always been a part of their characters.
Yeah.
I liked the little robot who was in this. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Herbie or something?
Herbie, or
I think it was Herbie.
Yeah, something to that effect. The characters really do feel like they came from the comic book again, which is not something that was true for the Fantastic Four 2015 attempt, and was maybe overly camp and silly in the original 2005 film. But they nail a lot of things too. They nail the Silver Surfer's power and just unbelievable. There's nothing you can do against that. They nailed Galactus, and with a character who is such a comic book character, this giant man with a silly hat, they make him intimidating and realistic. And when he's introduced, that is a great scene where you're like, holy fuck, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought all of that worked. I think my only person that I would have liked to see more from or got, and this is where I feel like maybe part of the subplots were cut, was Ben Grimm, the Thing. They touch on some of his issues of feeling like a monster that had been in the previous
self-perception.
His self-perception,
Yeah.
and his relationship with women that was probably the strongest element of the original 2005 film, and has always been a big part of the comic books, and Reed's guilt over the situation. They allude to some of these things, but it doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. I would have liked to see more of that. But everybody brought their A game from an acting perspective. There wasn't anyone who phoned it in or dropped the ball or was miscast. There wasn't the engineer from Superman where you're like, oh man, the acting did not land on that one. Not trying to be mean, but like, woof.
No, all of the actors understood their roles and they played them perfectly. Pedro Pascal, I have to give him credit, because if anyone has listened to our shows of late, they know that I'm a little burnt out on Mr. Pedro Pascal. I'm like, is there anyone else? Hello, anyone else? Any other Hispanic directors that want to work, please? Hello, wait, raise your hand. Ven acá. Hola. ¿Qué pasó? And this movie kind of rekindled the love I had for him that I had when I first was introduced to him in Game of Thrones. Like, there's something about the way he played this role, and I thought it was incredibly charming. It was intriguing. You cared about the character. There was an incredible amount of empathy behind his performance. Yeah, it was,
measured.
Measured. That's the word I'm looking for. Yes,
whatever this gesture is for those watching on camera.
Yeah, very measured. I don't believe I've seen him perform this well in any other films. He's done great work. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm saying this might be one of his better roles.
I think it really was. I think because it was somebody who more was asked of him, in that less was asked of him.
Yeah.
In a weird way. It's that we talked about this in the other review we've done, Eddington, recently.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Cranston saying being the villain is easy because you be maniacal, over the top, a dick and you get an Oscar, but playing the straight man is much harder. And I think this is more along the lines of the straight man.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm gets the funny lines. Sue is the emotional heart. Ben Grimm is the, gentle monster kind of element. Reed is the boring scientist by comparison to everyone else. And so he has to walk this fine line that I think Pedro Pascal and the director, Matt Shackman, did quite well.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I think Sue did a great job. Or Sue, Jesus. See, she was immersive in the whole thing. Vanessa Kirby did a great job as Sue, and I liked their back and forth. They felt like a relationship that complemented each other rather than Marvel's recent outings of girl boss and talking down to everyone else involved. She felt like, and this isn't to get into spoilers, but she was a strong female character who was strong because she's a female, and the elements of her character that come through that make her who she is. She is not the
her
Captain...
femininity wasn't diminished.
Exactly. She is not the Captain Marvel Ironheart template of
Yeah.
it's a man-written character as a man that has been cast by a woman.
Right.
But also not even a hero male character, like a villain who's an asshole.
That's a common discussion point for
Yeah.
for us on a lot of shows, because there is an unfortunate trend in Hollywood where, hey, a strong female role
Is a dude.
equates a dude with a chip on
Who's
his
a
shoulder.
prick, yeah. And has completely erased femininity from the equation. And in a weird way, erased masculinity too. Because it had
Yeah.
this weird toxic, which I hate that phrase, but like
Tinge.
toxic pretend imitation of what masculinity is applied to women.
Yeah.
And no one resonated with those perceptions.
Yeah.
And so this doesn't fall into that. And it has very much a theme of family, which is the cornerstone of the Fantastic Four. I've never been a big comic book Fantastic Four fan. They were just not as interesting to me as I've been a
Yeah.
Spider-Man guy my entire life. But this one, as they said even in behind the scenes elements, was trying to take more from, as I had said, the true best Fantastic Four movie, The Incredibles, and have that family element rather than Josh Trank's dark 2015 version.
And that's another reason why this movie is probably resonating with a lot of people, is because no matter what society keeps trying to tell you, most people love family and they love their families.
Everyone has a family.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about found family. I know that's the new thing now,
That's
but this
X-Men's
isn't
thing.
even about found family. This is about the nuclear family in a lot of ways, which is not very PC nowadays to advocate for. It's get it. I don't want to get political. But anyways, I do like what they did with this, and they didn't shy away from the very components that this franchise, this IP is built on.
It respects family without belittling other types of families.
Yeah, and it also doesn't idealize family either. We're not asking for a romanticization of the family structure or the family unit. Just be true to what Fantastic Four is about and handle it delicately. And I feel like they did, and they didn't handle it with cynicism, which is the word of the day, the word of the year, the word of the last decade. Because that's how everyone handles things nowadays.
Yes. And that's the thing, is it has a genuine approach to what makes family strong and something you can theoretically rely on. And even beyond that, like the Fantastic Four themselves act like the parents for the world in this movie. They are beyond the Avengers. They are a mix of the Avengers and Superman, where people truly believe in them, where they actually do good, where they try to save and help everyone. And the world, as you had said earlier, is not full of cynics and snark and attitudes that we have in the current Marvel and in our own real world.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see perhaps what some might call naive, but a more innocent and trusting and honestly caring world and time than we currently are in. We can preach all we want about caring or human rights and stuff like that, but almost everyone is full of such venom these days for those who think differently than them.
Yeah.
Regardless of your side.
And
that's a shame, and this doesn't fall into that. This has, and it's one of those things that I like. You had sent me something that talked about this, the superhero movies of the year so far have had a much nicer, brighter, uplifting, true hero element. It's not
Yeah.
subverting expectations. It's not destroying what the iconic legacy characters like Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones that they've been trying to dismantle and replace with their facsimile cardboard cutout characters. This is Superman being a good person, be kind. And Fantastic Four, family is important and theoretically should be there for you. We're not all lucky enough to have that, but the idea of it should not be hated either. I mean, some of the sad fact is the people I know who cared the most about their family, unfortunately, are the ones who didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
The guy I know who's cares about being dad more than anyone else I know, like he's actively always makes that a priority, didn't have his father growing up.
Right.
That is something that should still be cared about to some degree, even if, and it's what I like about these two movies, both Superman and Fantastic Four, the escapism element of showing a world or a way in which we should try to be better. That escapism element that a lot of Marvel's stuff recently had been downplaying for subverting expectations and, political messaging and just tedious, boring, sad elements of the real world we're trying to escape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do feel like the naive direction or innocent
I'd say.
direction they took definitely worked in the favor of
Yes.
this film, specifically in various moments that wouldn't have worked if we weren't in this specific world, meaning the messaging, the driving home of the theme of unity, organization, support,
Community. Working together for a greater...
Without giving any spoilers away, there was a moment where you initially asked, and then I think you probably thought against it afterwards. You asked, why would he say that? He says something that you're like,
Yeah.
well, the reason why he said it is because we're in a world where he believes that he could share something
He's
like
honest.
this. Yes, he's transparent, he's honest, and he loves the people in this community so much that he feels that they will trust, that he can trust them with such information.
It's not the, West Wing... And that's even more uplifting than today's world. But like the newsroom and lying and obfuscating the truth, and don't let the public know what's happening just yet. We have to come up with the narrative that we have so much of, both in the real world and so many other properties until recently.
Yeah,
and you're right. That at first I was like, dude, why the fuck would you do that? And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it definitely works. And I like it because it's not a hearkening back. It is not like an idealized view of a long lost time. It's not trying to say the 1960s were better. We know the 1960s were problematic, but this is an alternate reality where things are different, and they're able to conjure up hope and optimism in a way that other Marvel movies aren't quite capable of doing post the blip. It's built into the narrative now. This doom and gloom, people lost 5 years of their life. It's hard to now create something optimistic. I mean, in a lot of ways, that was the point of Thunderbolts, and it worked in its favor because it's capturing a feeling and a moment, and it works for that movie. But here's a movie saying, hey, listen, we don't want to capture a feeling and a moment because it feels pretty awful.
Yeah.
Let's capture something, a dream of years past when things were seemingly better. Even if they weren't, we tend to idealize the past. So let's focus on the things that we remember, the happy aspects.
Well, it's taking what people, or what you could say objectively, or at least from what we believe to be the good parts of the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
The idea of what it should be, but applied to everyone in a more utopia viewpoint. Not, oh, well, also there's all this negative cynicism of the real realities of it. Yes, we know that. That is an element. But this is by being a different dimension, a different multiverse, a different world, it is portraying what it could have been, what it should have been, what we all would have liked it to be. I don't think there's anybody who could watch this and see this world and say, well, that sucked. Like, there's no one who's gonna not want to go to this version of Earth.
Yeah, dude, this is a dream. This is
It's the old sci-fi serials.
This is true escapism in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We're leaving our reality and going someplace better.
Dude, okay. Is that where we need to go?
Yes.
Because we have spent so much of our time in our pop culture. We used to be able to enjoy things like Indiana Jones in the 1940s and beating up Nazis and things like that. And it's gotten to the point where we go back and we strip mine history and try to ruin all the nice things or even the fake fun elements that we had.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that jackass now in the argument who's like, well, Indiana Jones, you know, pillaging the
counter
colonial,
narratives.
You know,
You're talking about
Batman's beating up homeless people. And it's like, that's not what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But by jumping universes to an idealized fictional reality, we've avoided that.
Yeah.
Into a world of what should be and could have been. And I think that's one of the most uplifting elements of the movie is that regardless of all the superhero Marvel element stuff, it is an idea of what a world could be and has for the this and Superman in their own different unique ways have had that touch of what movies used to have of what escapism was about aspiring to be something more, something better, be different, not wallowing in our self-inflicted requiem for a dream misery that has been the last 10 years of media.
You're touching on some valid points here because I would agree. I love those doom and gloom.
There's a time and a place.
Films, but those were largely indie films.
Or not, or
They were award films. They were indie films. And the summer movies and mainstream fare of all types were not that. They were more
fun.
Like what we're talking about now with Fantastic Four and Superman. And it seems like everyone has just decided, well, life sucks, so we're just going to write movies that delve into that time and tap into it as a way to work through the emotional crisis. And like I said, that has its place. The emotional and psychological crisis.
Yeah.
But like those movies have their place.
Mm-hmm. But it can't be your only thing.
Yeah. And I do feel like a lot of that was waning. These counter narratives, these revisionist themes, they work for certain films. But when you're trying to peddle this type of stuff to the mainstream audiences and young children don't want to watch doom and gloom.
No.
They don't. First off, they don't get it.
I don't want to watch
most
it
kids haven't experienced life enough to really connect with those types of stories yet anyways. So you're making things, A, that make them feel uncomfortable, B, they don't understand.
Yeah.
You know? So I think this is a good direction. I think this is a very good direction and a very smart move on Marvel's part. And I don't think we have blown a Marvel movie like this since Infinity War.
No.
I think this is without a doubt the best Marvel movie of the last 5 years.
There's one.
I love the Spider-Man movies though, so that's kind of hard to say.
So what I was going to say, looking back since Endgame, we had the second Spider-Man, Far From Home, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home. That is the one that fucking nailed it. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Blunder, Black Panther, We Fucked Up Forever, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians 3.
Oh, I like that movie.
Mix,
I did. I like that movie.
It was pretty good, but I don't think it was like...
But it was doom and gloom.
It was doom and gloom still. The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, fun but retarded. Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts in this. This is besides Spider-Man, No Way Home, the third one, and Guardians, and if you got high as hell and watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and even then, that has literally apocalyptic ending.
Yeah.
This is the only one that like didn't have that and had an uplifting view.
And at the same time, they used Galactus. How did that work? And it did.
You know? You got to go see the movie to see it. And so that's where I would say this summer has been weird. There's been a lot of big titles and nothing has really resonated. And even this is, we're going to see how it does. and if it can pull it off. But in its first week, it has gone to a worldwide box office of $241 million.
That's not bad for this opening
That's
weekend.
not bad for one weekend. Superman
but
has
it's
been
also-
out 3 weeks and is only crested 510.
Crested.
It's struggling. And despite being the biggest financial winner, Jurassic World Rebirth is at 723. That's kind of low for what the last few have been.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what was expected.
Yeah.
That's probably half of what they were hoping for.
The summer films this year are not
They're
performing
not
all
doing
that well.
it. But this one is at least looking like it's performing.
It had
well.
a strong start, but this
It's only
also-
been 1 week.
Technically, it only has one more week of the summer left too. And then people
Depends on how you argue
people
that.
return to work, they go to school, a lot of people. So that tends to put on the brakes
A little bit.
oftentimes. I hope it doesn't. I really want this movie to do well. I want one movie this year to
To
just
do half decent.
to blow up.
Yeah.
Because I totally enjoyed Thunderbolts, which this is a summer I did not expect. A summer where I would dislike the DC movie and like the two Marvel films.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, yeah, looking at it, Jurassic World Rebirth, the last 3 Jurassic Worlds all made over $1 billion, and this is at 723. That's not good.
It's not going to hit that.
I don't think it's going to hit
Yeah.
900.
No. It's slowing down.
It's slowed down a lot, and I think anybody who's going to go to the movies is going to see Fantastic Four, and rightfully so. It's the best one of the 3, and I do think it has. I think it'll do better than Thunderbolts. I think it'll do better than the other movies this year for Marvel. But I don't see any of them really bringing home. Sadly, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Bringing home the Minecraft bucks. That Jesus
well,
Christ.
don't forget Lilo and Stitch too. That's at $1 billion.
I don't want to talk about that movie.
I don't even understand
That movie
that.
offends my soul. Anyway, it's interesting. It's been an interesting summer. But if you're going to go see something, Fantastic Four is actually worth your money. It's fun. Again, it's not perfect, but it's a good time. And
I don't
it's an
expect
escapism.
I don't expect these Marvel films to be perfect.
Not anymore.
As long as they do their job, and they did, right?
I'd say
what are
it
you going to
did.
give it, Thomas?
Ooh, that's tough. Because I don't want to be too generous because I'm me.
No, be honest though. If you feel like it's a high percentage, then just go with it. Because Thomas, you were smiling. You were.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you happy in a long time, and you were happy.
I'd give this one maybe an 80, 82%. It's
Okay.
pretty good. Like, I give it a B. Like, I liked what I saw. I had a good time. It's better than Superman, which I gave like a 60 or a 70 something. I don't quite remember.
Yeah.
It's substantially better than that. It's not the best of Marvel's stuff or movies in general, but you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you give this one?
I'll give it an 80. 85.
85?
85%.
All right.
I liked it quite a bit. It was fun. It was fresh.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly unique in some ways. We saw people we'd never
It
seen
is.
before.
I'd watch it again, which I can't
Yeah.
say about Jurassic World or even maybe Superman.
Yeah. So
So-
I think it's definitely a win.
And, at least they pulled it out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Again, not the one that I think anyone would have bet on, but
No, in fact, Thomas, this is the one everyone was talking about
was going to suck.
gonna suck. In fact, that's what in the studio, none of us were positive. Like, it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
And it ended up surprising all of us being probably the best summer movie of the year.
Yeah. which is-
Probably.
Wow. What the hell happened?
That was not supposed to happen.
Yeah. So
It was supposed to be Superman. What happened? I swore it was gonna be Superman. I really did.
I told you were wrong. I told everyone they were wrong. No one wanted to believe me. So anyway, that's going to do it here for us at Critique Revolve. Go see Fantastic Four. It's the only one in the month that I've been able to recommend to people like wholeheartedly. So
Yeah.
thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.